A developer needed to rename 12 files. Simple task. They set the effort parameter to max and sent the request. The model generated thousands of hidden reasoning tokens before answering. Tokens a developer would never see. The answer? Identical to what a low-effort call would return. 50 times the cost. Identical output. One parameter exists in every frontier AI API today. Claude calls it effort. OpenAI calls it reasoning_effort. Google calls it thinking_budget. These are not naming differences. All three expose the same lever. How much compute the model burns before it speaks. Almost no developer is tuning it correctly. And the gap between the wrong setting and the right one compounds across every call. The developer who made that mistake was not being careless. They were using the default. When you set effort to high, something extra happens before the answer arrives. The model opens a private scratchpad. A chain of thought where it reasons step by step before committing to a response. You never see the scratchpad, but you pay for every token in it. At low effort, the scratchpad is short. A few hundred tokens if it runs at all. At high effort, the scratchpad can run to tens of thousands of tokens. Thinking tokens are billed as output tokens, the most expensive category. A single high-effort call costs 56% more than the same prompt at low effort. The scratchpad is invisible. The bill is not. Why build this at all? For hard problems, it works. Multi-step proofs. Complex code with edge cases. Ambiguous medical questions. On those tasks, extended reasoning earns its cost. But most API calls are not hard problems. And the default setting in most SDKs is not low. It is medium or higher. That single default explains most of the reasoning model overspend happening in production right now. The fix is one line of configuration. In 2025, every major lab shipped a version of the same feature. Different names. Identical concept. Claude has 5 levels. Low, medium, high, extra high, and max. OpenAI has 4. Low, medium, high, and extra high. Default is medium. Google takes a thinking budget. A raw token count you set directly. Under the hood, all three work the same way. The effort parameter controls how many tokens the model is allowed to spend reasoning before producing the visible answer. More tokens. More reasoning steps. Longer to wait. Higher to bill. All 3 labs shipped this within 12 months of each other. Not because of collaboration, because the same research showed the same result. On hard tasks, more thinking helps. The papers were real. The benchmarks were real. The feature was built for good reasons. Medium became the default because medium scored best on those benchmark suites. But those suites were all hard tasks. Competition math, adversarial logic, complex code. Nobody included file renames in a reasoning benchmark. But nobody asked the inverse question. What happens on easy tasks? That question took a controlled benchmark and thousands of API calls to answer with confidence. The answer is not what you would guess. In February 2026, Future Search ran GPT-5 across 3 effort levels on simple tasks. Here is what they found. Low effort, 49.6% accuracy. Medium effort, 48.6%. High effort, 48.1%. As effort rises, accuracy falls. They ran this across classification, factual retrieval, and structured output. Deterministic tasks. Not generative writing, not complex synthesis. Every category showed the same pattern. Watch what happens when you actually run both modes. On a simple task, extended reasoning introduces opportunities to second-guess the obvious answer. The model considers alternatives it does not need. It generates caveats that reduce directness. It overthinks. The dial that looks like make it smarter is actually allocate more compute. On a hard task, more compute helps. On a simple task, more compute costs more. In Hertz, the fix is one routing decision. 3 task types. Each maps to a level. Simple tasks. Extraction, classification, file operations, basic summarization. Use low. The model does not need a scratch pad to rename a file. Complex tasks. Multi-step code generation, reasoning chains, document analysis with competing interpretations. Use medium. Medium is where the scratch pad earns its tokens. A practical test. If you can write a unit assertion that confirms the correct answer in under 5 seconds. It is a simple task. If correctness requires judgment. Is complex or critical? Critical tasks. Medical reasoning, financial decisions, security audits, production deployments. Use high or extra high. But benchmark before committing to high. The Vellum LLM parameter guide puts it directly. Set reasoning effort to low or minimal for tasks where medium is overkill. Only use high or extra high when your evals show a measurable quality gain that justifies the cost. Run your evals. Then set the dial. If you have no evals yet, start every task at low. Promote to medium only when you observe quality issues in production. The difference between tuning this dial correctly and leaving it on default is not marginal. Artificial Analysis ran a full evaluation suite across effort levels. At minimal effort, the call completes with a baseline token count. At high effort, the same call used 23 times more tokens. 23 times. This is a controlled measurement. Same prompt. Same model. Same task. Only the effort level changed. At 10,000 calls per day, you are paying 23 times more for no measurable gain. At $1 per million output tokens. Low effort, $23 per day. High effort, $530 per day. Same workload. Same answers. The difference is visible in your billing dashboard by the end of month 1. The effort dial is not a quality setting. It is a resource allocation setting. Treat it like one. The effort parameter is not a magic dial. It is a routing tool. Match it to the task. Simple tasks, low. Complex tasks, medium. Critical tasks with eval evidence, high. Using the right level costs 23 times less at scale. And on simple tasks, it produces better results. That developer who paid 50 times too much on a file rename? One parameter change. Fraction of the cost. Same answer. The effort dial is the most underconfigured parameter in the Frontier AI stack. It is also the easiest one to fix. If this changed how you think about your API calls, subscribe. One video every week on the developer details that most explainers skip. Hit the bell so you do not miss the next one.